It's like unbelievable. They were like a ragtag operation when they started, and they like created and they put it together, and they got this international movement. They got international financing behind them. They got the British Empire behind them, and then ultimately, in for all the pogroms that went on for hundreds of years before World War One. It wasn't in World War One. They got the British to back their project, and then it wasn't World War Two. Something came along that blew away all of the pogroms in all of history, which was the Holocaust. And I mean, so in this environment, post World War II, this group of Zionists like had so much wind in their back. Like, yes, they were proven correct. Almost. They were telling all these Jews, you can't make a home in Europe. Things may seem good now, but they're going to turn on you at some point. And then they had the rise of Adolf Hitler, and this Zionist movement really got a big burst of energy in it. And they went and they created their state in what is today Israel. And look, I'm not even trying to be too judgmental here. This was an environment where World War II just happened. 60 million people have been killed. The Holocaust just happened specifically to the Jewish people. The good guys in the war are firebombing Tokyo and dropping nuclear weapons and bombing cities when they know the men are out at war, and just bombing the women and children in the city. You know, like, this is on all sides. World War II is like, you know, we wrote all these international rules after World War II to be like, hey, we can never do this again, because this was like just, you know, too insane. And then, so you're talking 2 years after that, in the end of 1947, when the UN partition recommendation comes, and these guys were like, okay, we're going to kick some people off of their land and make our own little state here. And that's, listen, this happened in context. All these governments committed crimes at these times.
I was going to ask you, because my understanding, which as mentioned is very limited, is that nobody wanted the Jews. Everybody hated the Jews. So then it was like, I don't want to take them. Well, I'm not going to take them. Anyway, long story short, nobody takes them. So they get thrown out of all these different countries because nobody wants them. Everybody's anti-Semitic. And Britain had already stolen this land in Palestine. It was like, well, it's ours. We took it, so we're going to give it to you.
No, it wasn't even theirs yet. It wasn't even theirs yet. They were. It was controlled by the Ottoman Empire when they gave it to the Jews. But they were trying to take out the Ottoman Empire, which ultimately they did. So they ultimately took control of it after World War I, when the Ottoman Empire fell. And then they had what was known as a League of Nations mandate. And Britain occupied Palestine, and essentially they were the government from, I guess, the end of World War I until 1947. And so that entire time. Now, what they said in 1917 in the Balfour Declaration was that, like, the king approves the Jews creating a homeland in Palestine. So, like, it had the blessing of the king. And so that, you know, like, this gave international legitimacy to the movement at the time. But regardless of any of that, look, the creation of the state of Israel resulted in somewhere between 700 and 800,000 Palestinians who had been living in this land for hundreds of years being either forcibly removed from their homes or fleeing and never allowed to return. And that's what created the refugee problem to begin with. And then there was always a problem of fighting back and the terrorism and counterterrorism, which is kind of just more terrorism and all of this. And then in 1967, Israel launched a preemptive war against Egypt. And then Jordan joined in the war. So they fought a war on two fronts, and Israel won. And then Israel took control of Gaza and the West Bank. And they made themselves the government of all of it. But there were millions of Palestinians living there. And Israel's controlled the thing ever since. They've just controlled it ever since. And so you're just at a certain point in time, you know, and people can argue and caveat with this, well, there was a disengagement in 2005 or something. No, there wasn't. They kept a complete perimeter around the place. They controlled the water, the sea space, the air space. They controlled everything about the area. And, you know, I think that if you do that, it's going to come with the price tag of people developing a burning hatred for you. And listen, I'm not saying anything about the Israeli government that I wouldn't say about my own government. Just like they've really mistreated some people and had some really, really bad foreign policy decisions. But Anyway, I kind of lost track of where the point I was making
No,
at the
I
beginning
get what
there.
you're
But
saying. Because I admit,
but okay. I'm sorry. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I literally just
no.
remembered it right now. But and I'll be quick with this.
Dave,
But the last
listen,
one is
I got all the time in the world. You're like
well
90 minutes. I was like, okay.
well, I'll just say so when people say if Hamas put down their weapons and gave up all the
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.